Look at the sheer physical scale of the Cold War. For decades, massive concrete barricades and heavily armed borders divided the globe into isolated, hostile hemispheres. We are taught to view this half-century standoff as a highly calculated game of chess. The narrative is usually dominated by rigid political ideologies and the cold, terrifying mathematics of mutually assured destruction. But the reality is far messier. The conflict was driven by bizarre human errors, absurd Hollywood-style disguises, and a crippling institutional paranoia that nearly tore intelligence agencies apart from the inside. While politicians publicly threatened nuclear annihilation, the actual fighting took place down in the dark, rushing sewers of Moscow. Mastery of deception proved more decisive than the raw tally of nuclear warheads, right up until those lies turned inward and infected the spies themselves. In 1959, the alliance between the Soviet Union and the People's Republic of China appeared unbreakable. They were the two largest communist powers on Earth, forming a massive bloc that deeply alarmed the West. Yet beneath the surface, personal frictions were boiling over. Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev viewed his Chinese counterparts with increasing suspicion, setting a tense stage for their summit meeting that year. During the trip, Khrushchev attempted to make a playful, dismissive comment. He meant to refer to the Chinese leadership as an old boot, a Russian idiom for something worn out that should simply be thrown away. The Russian phrase had to be translated into Chinese. The interpreter accidentally used a word that means both old boot and old whore. Mao Zedong received this as a massive, deliberate insult. The diplomatic fallout was severe. Soviet advisors were soon withdrawn, and the two nations engaged in bitter ideological and border disputes, fracturing their communist unity. This linguistic blunder acted as a catalyst, accelerating a collapse that neither leader was willing to stop. It revealed how easily the rigid structures of the Cold War could buckle under a single, unintended human slight. Curious tone. This bitter division between Moscow and Beijing created a massive strategic opening for the United States. To exploit it, Washington needed to make direct contact with China under absolute secrecy. In the summer of 1971, National Security Advisor Henry Kissinger traveled to Pakistan. To shake the journalists trailing his every move, Kissinger claimed he was suffering from a severe stomach bug and needed to rest out of sight. While the press corps waited for him to recover, Kissinger was covertly smuggled onto a Pakistani Boeing 707 and flown straight over the Himalayas to land in Beijing. Those secret meetings successfully normalized relations between the United States and China. By aligning with Beijing, Washington applied immense pressure on the Soviet Union, forcing Moscow to reconsider its global posture. That one fake stomachache brought China into the fold, forcing the Soviet Union to seek its own rapprochement to avoid total isolation. As the diplomatic maps were redrawn, the most intense battles of the intelligence war shifted away from summit tables and deep into covert field operations inside Moscow. The CIA's Operation CK-TA aimed to intercept a secure underground cable connecting a Soviet military base to a nuclear facility. Bypassing KGB surveillance using a Hollywood-designed physical disguise, an operative navigated thigh-deep sewer tunnels to clamp a recording tap directly onto the target wire. For years, it yielded priceless intelligence, but this flawless physical operation was eventually destroyed. A disgruntled former CIA officer, Edward Lee Howard, defected and handed the location of the tap straight to the KGB. Operation CK-TA proved that physical illusions could successfully outmaneuver Soviet surveillance. Yet the finest Hollywood disguises and covert engineering were entirely defenseless against human betrayal from within the agency itself. When an intelligence agency realizes it has been compromised, the response is often more destructive than the breach itself. The Shadow War's ultimate evolution was the onset of institutional paranoia. During World War II, a group known as the Cambridge Five infiltrated British intelligence. Among them was Kim Philby. Because Philby and his peers came from affluent, upper-class backgrounds, they easily slipped past the rudimentary background checks of the era, which relied almost entirely on social status. Philby passed volumes of secrets to the Soviets, But the true violence of his betrayal was the psychological virus he left behind. By proving that a high-ranking, well-bred insider could be a double agent, he forced Western agencies to doubt their own ranks. At the CIA, head of counterintelligence, James Angleton, was so devastated by Philby's deception that he descended into a state of deep paranoia. He became convinced of an overarching Soviet plot against the United States, turning away genuine defectors and paralyzing his own staff in a wilderness of mirrors. The British Security Service faced a parallel collapse. MI5 tore itself apart on a desperate internal witch hunt, searching for a phantom fifth man. That search ruined the careers of innocent civil servants and led at least one suspect to commit suicide. The ultimate weapon in a war of mirrors is the moment an agency loses its grip on reality, allowing internal paranoia to achieve what no enemy spy could: the total dismantling of its own credibility.